ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي من أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم. صدق الله العظيم. I just come up with the conclusion to cover more subjects that I would just avoid talking about because I think it's important, and I think I'm the best to know for a particular reason. The particular reason is I have the ability to read people's minds. I have ESP. I can even talk to you without moving my mouth. But I tell people that I try not to do it. I try really hard not to do it because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu he met a kid who everybody thought he was the Antichrist because he could read people's minds. And then the Prophet Muhammad tested him. He said, "What am I thinking about?" And he said, "Al-Dukh." He said, "Yep, that's it." And then everybody was confused about that. They were like, "Well, why did you say that's what you were thinking about? What's al-dukh? That's not even a word." He said, "No, it is a word in their dialect. It's al-dukhan. We say al-dukhan. They say al-dukh. It means the smoke." So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu told that kid, "Don't increase that ability. It's bad for you." And that kid later became Muslim after meeting the Prophet. And after he became Muslim, he lived his whole life alone. He never got married. Nobody ever hired him. Nobody really wanted to deal with him because they knew that he could read your mind. So that's why if you have that ability, you shouldn't do it because it's bad for you. Just like it was bad for him. He lived alone, never got married, never had a friend. People just don't want that. People have a lot of secrets. They don't want you to know everything they think about. So, like when I tell you guys that I can read people's minds, I know that like half of you who hear this are thinking right now, if that's true, I am never talking to him. That's what you think. If you ever meet somebody who can read your mind, that's just what you don't want to be around it. And then I tell people to watch the South Park episode about Jeff Bezos, about how Jeff Bezos he can read your mind and he can speak without talking. And then in the video he in the cartoon, in the South Park cartoon, it was a comedy, and he accidentally talked to people who work with him without moving his lips because he couldn't control it. Like, I know that's real. I know that's real because that's actually how it is. So, like, I actually made a video on this page. You can find it. It's in the title. It says, one of these sentences in this video, I did not move my lips. Which sentence is it? But it's also it was an experiment for me to see if that effect actually works over the internet. Because maybe I heard it, or somebody else standing next to me can hear it, but through the media, they might just see me like this. They don't hear anything. So because ESP is connected to the human soul. So what I want to talk about is Islam in America and Islam in the whole world. And there's a lot of problems with Muslims because they don't understand their religion. They don't use it to live their life. And the scholars of the Islamic community today are, on average, the dumbest of the community. And that's because of how schools work. And, 90% or higher on the final test. You're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever, big money jobs. Then if you get like 80%, you're going to go into business. If you get 60 to 70%, you're going to go into trade school. And if you get less than that, in other words, you're the dumbest, you might have mental problems, they'll send you to the Islamic knowledge school. So, what's happening in the modern Muslim world today, what most people don't realize, is that the scholars of Islam are actually the lowest intellect, the least capable leadership that you could ever have. They probably have mental disorders. They can't read right. They don't know math. They have problems mentally. That's why this is what's happening now in the Muslim world. And like one proof of it for everybody to know. Why is the Muslim world having so many problems? It's really easy for me to see it. For example, in India, Pakistan area, 60% of all people only ever marry family, cousins. They only ever marry incestually. In other words, they marry cousins. 60% of all people. So I think, I don't know, if you just have to be like a studious person to pay attention to the knowledge that's known about this. Like, for example, the Prophet Muhammad discouraged marrying cousins. He said it's okay because sometimes you have to. You have no other choice. But it's better not to. And he mentioned mental problems and physical problems that come to the children from it. And 60%, like any two cousins who get married, 10% of their kids are gonna be permanently disabled or handicapped for their whole entire life. 10%, 1 out of 10. So if they have 10 kids, one of them for sure is gonna be messed up. And if you just think about that, if you can take any country and make 10% of their people all mentally disabled and physically disabled, you've collapsed the whole entire country. How did Muslims end up like this? How is this? And then we keep trying to figure out what's wrong with Islam. What's wrong with Islam? You don't have the right knowledge. You don't have someone telling you, don't marry your cousins. This is only an emergency thing. Like, you move to a city far away, you're a Native American, say, you lost your land, you went to a new land, and then when you went to that new land, everybody who lives with you is your own family. So you're forced to marry your own cousins. So sometimes people had to marry their own cousins because they traveled, and the only people that you could marry were your own cousins. So that's why it's allowed, because sometimes it's the only option. But it's also discouraged because the Prophet Muhammad knew that it would cause physical problems in the babies. Mental and physical problems. So this is what people have to understand, is that the problem with the Islamic community in the world today is they have no good leadership. And the best of leadership in Islam today are the people who accepted Islam and studied it on their own. They didn't need a job. They already have a job. They already have their life. They already have everything. They're learning just for the sake of learning. And they love the knowledge, and they love learning, and those kind of scholars are great scholars. They didn't become scholars based on the modern educational systems that's happening today. So, and you can go to the rest of the Muslim world, and almost everywhere in the Muslim world, like half the whole country is marrying cousins, which means like 5 to 10% of all their kids are permanently mentally and physically disabled. 10%. That's too much. That's 1 out of 10. So I'm basically saying, if you take everybody in America, if I could do this, if I could take everybody in America and make 1 out of 10 of them permanently disabled or handicapped mentally or physically, 10% of them, I've defeated the whole country. So how did Muslims get into this messed up situation? And I personally think that marrying just cousins is very close to the tribalism that happens amongst those people. Like if I asked one of them, I did this. I tried it as an experiment because they call themselves Dawa people. I said, hey, bro, I'm trying to get married. If you know anybody trying to get married, let me know. He's like, he's laughing at me. He's like, why don't you just go to India, find somebody over there? I'm like, that's not my country. That's not where I was raised. They have a totally different culture. That doesn't make any sense. And you're talking about going to like an Islamic retreat to try to get married. That's not the right intention. Like, you shouldn't do it to get married. You go to get married or you go to do Islamic stuff. They're separate things. And but it was just insulting that he would laugh at me. And then there was one other brother. He said, I know this sister. She's trying to get married. I said, all right, cool. And then I keep calling him like every day. What's up? What happened? And he doesn't tell me anything. He could have just said she's not interested right now. She changed her mind. He could have just said whatever. He could have said anything, but he wouldn't say anything. And he never once said she married somebody else or she doesn't want to get married right now. He never explained why he doesn't return. He keeps saying, yeah, she wants to get married. Yeah, she wants to get married. I'm going to talk to her. So I keep calling. Did you talk to her? What's going on? And he never responds. And then there's another brother. He comes up to me. He says, there's this girl that's trying to get married. And I'm like, okay, cool. Oh, and you know where she works? I can go check her out, meet her, and just talk to her and like get to know her. We don't have to tell her that I'm the one who's trying to get married to her. Just make it kind of like just, hey, how you doing? You know, what's going on? Oh, what's your name? Like, get to know her, see if we click. And he gets mad at me for that. And I'm confused because I'm like, well, you claim to be a Muslim and you claim to follow the Prophet Muhammad. And the Prophet Muhammad said, before you marry someone, meet them first. So I'm doing what the Prophet Muhammad said. I want to meet her. Like you said, somebody who wants to get married, I want to meet her. Where is she? Well, he also never responded. And he never once said, she's not interested in getting married, or she married somebody else, or she's not interested in you, or whatever. Just something. Just say something. And what I learned, and I say this phrase all the time, I say people who believe in marrying multiple women, it's best not to hang out with them. Because you're never going to get married. Every time you have a chance to get married, so the reason why this happened is people would talk to me about somebody to get married and all this stuff. What was really going on? Very simple. I'll explain it to you. He don't want his wife to know, his current wife to know that he wants to get a second wife, and then he's just using me as a scapegoat, like tricking his wife to think that he's trying to get me to marry her, but deep down in his mind, he wants to marry her as a second wife. This is why I say, because of the multiple wives marriages in Islam, it's best not to associate with other Muslims. It's just best not to, because in my experience is that I have to live my whole life not get married, and then every girl that comes looking for a husband, she comes to this Muslim guy who I know, and he pretends to try to get her to hook up with me, but he never really does. He's just playing a game. He's playing a game with his current wife, and he just wants to use me, get her to say no to me, and then in the end he marries her. He'll be like, I'll just marry her, she needs somebody, da 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 da. But the whole intention was, just by the operation of the whole thing, of how it operates, the whole intention is, we're never gonna help you get married. Before we help you get married, we're gonna marry her. This is the problem with multiple wives. And this happens so much that I really truly believe that anybody who believes in marrying a second wife, it's best not to associate with them. Best not to hang out with them. Because this whole second wife thing, it's not even recommended. It's only for times of war. So like say you had a war, half the men died, now half the women don't have their men, and half the kids don't have their fathers. So who's going to help them out? Who's going to take care of them? So they should have to try to marry somebody else, but he's already married, right? Because women don't die in war. So then they just have like double wives. And this is very important if people would understand, for example, that Afghanistan, when they fought the Taliban, the oldest leader in the whole entire Taliban was like 18 years old. There are no old people there. They've all been murdered. They fought 50 years worth of war because they fought Russia, they fought England, they fought United States and NATO, and that whole war is trying to claim that there's Muslim terrorists, but actually it's your own people who are causing these wars who are the terrorists, because they just want to go steal Afghanistan. They just want all the wealth that's there, because there's massive amounts of wealth. They got more oil, more lithium, more this, more that, more everything. More gold. They got everything in Afghanistan. They got under the mountains is all your rich elements, and it's all mountains. So everybody wants Afghanistan. Also, it's in the middle of passage routes from Asia to Europe and to Africa. So like trains and cars and stuff drive through Afghanistan all the time. They pay taxes to these people. So the people who want to run the world and control the world, they want the nations in the middle. So the whole Islamophobic thing of demonizing me and people who look like me is because your 1% want to rule the Middle East so badly, and they want to rule Afghanistan because whoever rules those places is going to rule the world and become the leaders of the world. So they constantly demonize me in order for them to come up. But what they have to understand, oh, you people, what you did just bankrupt yourself. Like, I'm not totally a weak person. I'm not totally incapable. I'm very capable, very able. So at the same time you're trying to attack and steal from me, I'm giving it away for free to all the people you don't want to know about it. They all know about it more than you do. So that's why in my last video I said racism towards me bankrupt your country. And that's proof that racism in any nation bankrupts the nation. So I can actually just say United States is destined for bankruptcy. And I think they're going to get bought by Israel. That's what I think. I think one day Israel is going to make the United States part of their own stuff. And if you look at the stuff that's happening right now, it seems like that already. It already seems like that. All the politicians will never say anything bad about Israel. They're afraid. They're afraid of the Israelis and what they'll do. And anybody who doesn't know, Israel assassinated John F. Kennedy. My dad has been telling me this for 40 years. He's a historian. He's well versed. He reads so much. He's been telling me for 40 years that Israel killed Kennedy and they used Lyndon B. Johnson. And my dad died at the age of 80. He was really old. He was like, I was born when he was 65. So he was really smart. My dad was very, very old and smart. And he kept telling me that, and I believed him because he was so confident about it. And he gave me all the evidences. And now all the academic historians who specialize in Israel and stuff have all agreed to that. So there's a lot going on. Anyway, bye bye everybody, have a good day. Happy Ramadan.